Welcome to Kalu Plays COD, and in today's video I'm going to discuss why I think Black Ops 6 was actually an amazing Call of Duty game, and I believe that in the future we're going to look back at Black Ops 6 as one of the best in the franchise. So I appreciate this is a controversial opinion because the trend always says that the most recent Call of Duty game is always the worst. However, I do believe that a few years from now, as new releases come out and as Call of Duty changes, we are going to look back at Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and realise just what a great game we had. So why do I think that? So first off, the setting of the game. The setting of the game was in the Gulf War, and that is actually an error which hasn't been done before in Call of Duty. They've dabbled in it in games like Cold War and the original Black Ops, but we've never actually had a game that was purely set in the Gulf War. And I think they managed it well. It's quite a small time period, but they managed that really well in the campaign, especially when they implemented it with espionage style campaign to fit the theme of the war, but also talk about kind of the controversies and things that happened in that time period. Some very memorable moments would be missions such as High Roller, where you pull out a casino heist, and Emergence, which is the zombies mission, which I'm not going to spoil too much, but if you've played it you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I believe that they ended the campaign really well. So for example, the last mission was Separation Anxiety and Checkmate. Separation Anxiety was the second to last mission. However, halfway through the mission you would then jump straight to Checkmate. You would do a bit of Checkmate and you jump back to Separation Anxiety, and by the end of those two missions it would complete a cohesive story and all the plot holes would kind of make sense. And I think it rounded off the story really well, where at the end I was like, actually yeah, I really enjoyed that. But of course the campaign is not the primary enjoyable mode of the Call of Duty series. The one that we all enjoy, the one that most people enjoy, is multiplayer. And I really enjoyed multiplayer this year. First off, the Prestige system was back. They brought back the Master Prestige grind, and I really enjoyed it this year. They made goals and challenges to do to go towards that grind. You didn't just have to play the game mindlessly just to level up. I also enjoyed the maps. I know there was a lot of controversy around them, but actually I think they were all really good. It was every map was clearly set in the Gulf War, clearly set in the past. They didn't make maps that were kind of taken off theme. Yes, some of them were very similar in size, but I think it worked with the game. None of them strayed away from the Gulf War, and actually even though a lot of the maps were set in the same time period, they were all different aesthetically. For example, a DLC map like Barrage was set in the barracks, but then a launch map like Skyline was set in a really high-end hotel. Both set in the same time period, but both equally different because of where they were set. I also enjoyed the map Dealership, which was a DLC map that they brought out, and I think that contrasts really well with Rewind, which is kind of set in like a video store that's kind of war-torn and clearly had some battle going on. But then Dealership was like a high-end car show that was set in the 90s. Again, same time period, but they contrasted really well to bring some variety to the maps. And there was another map, Red Card, which was set in like an American football stadium. Again, set in the kind of 90s, but then that contrasted really well with the launch map Subsonic, which was set in a military airport that's clearly been, bombed and had a war in it. So, obviously, I've talked about the maps, and the maps, I get why they have controversy, but I've explained why it works really well with the game. But another aspect of what made Black Ops 6 multiplayer really good is the weapon. I believe that the weapons were really well balanced, and any overpowered weapons were balanced out really well and quite early in the game. But also they released some really good DLC weapons. Some was for nostalgia, like the PPSH and the MP40, but even though they were done for nostalgia, they're weapons that we've seen before, I do think it worked well because the game was set in the past. These World War II weapons didn't seem to out of place, so the PPSH and the MP40 being quite good didn't seem out of place, and it was actually really enjoyable and good to see. There were also brought weapons like the LC-10 and the FFAR from Cold War, which again was a nice surprise when they brought them, and again they fit quite well with the game. But on top of the weapons and on top of the maps, I also think that the camo grind this year was one of the best that we've ever seen. The grind for Dark Matter is easily the best camo grind. The first reason is that the camo you get at the end was absolutely worth it. You get Dark Spine, Diamond, Gold, but you also get Dark Matter, and all the camos look amazing. But it's also easily accessible to new players. Instead of having to get gold in every single category, instead you just have to get 33 weapons gold, which means if you want to avoid the launchers or avoid the knives, you just wait for the DLC weapons to come out and you try them as well. And then later down the line, when you want a bit more of a challenge, you can then go for Dark Matter on the rocket launchers. And I think that making that easily accessible to new players brought a new challenge and a new experience to the camo grind. But that alone would make this Call of Duty really good. I think that having a good camo grind, good maps, good gameplay alone would make this great, as well as a campaign that was really enjoyable. But another thing that they did is that they also improved upon the zombies. The launch maps within the game were amazing. For example, Liberty Falls and Terminus were the two launch maps, and they were both completely different. Liberty Falls was set in an old town in the 90s, set during the day, but it was still creepy and eerie and really fun and worked with the zombies theme. That completely contrasted with Terminus, that was set in like the dark ocean, that was had like a biolab all the way out in the ocean, like a secret lab. And it was dark, it was eerie, you had test tubes everywhere, you had zombies that had clearly been worked on, and even though the two maps looked completely different, they were still clearly set in the same time period, same universe, and they both played differently, and they were both really enjoyable. They also added a camo grind to the zombies mode, which I also grinded through, as well as the multiplayer camo. And it was really, really enjoyable. It was really, really fun. It kept me coming back to zombies and replaying those maps. And because the maps are also really enjoyable, as well as the challenge for the camo grind, it kept bringing me back to zombies. And all of this combined, I believe, made an excellent and memorable Call of Duty game, which unfortunately was overshadowed by the long-term issues the community have with the series. But I do believe that in the future, we're going to look back at Black Ops 6, we're going to look at how well built the game was, we're going to look at the DLC maps, we're going to look at the weapon, and all the content that we got throughout the year, and I believe we're going to look back and think that this was actually one of the best Call of Duty games we got, and that is my current opinion. I really enjoyed the game, and I think it was great. However, that is just my opinion, and I know it's a controversial one, especially where we've only just hit the end of the life cycle and there's other games, other Call of Duty games in the series that people enjoy, so I'm sure that you are going to let me know your opinion in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, where I do regular Call of Duty videos, and when Black Ops 7 comes out, I'm going to be streaming it and posting videos on the game. Also, if you enjoyed this video, I recently released a video on what I think of the future of the Call of Duty series and where I think it's going to go. See you in the next video.